You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer Podcast. Season 2, new intro. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 1 time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Once again, you are now tuning into the Minority Trailblazer Podcast, and I'm your host, Greg E. Hill, the culture change agent. Thank you, Dream Out Loud, and featured artist Laka Shaw for blessing us with the intro. I've been getting amazing feedback from it thus far. And yo, it always, man, that energy, brown skin, no, but, I got the boy hype out here. Woo, I'm hype. So, before we get into the show, and I guarantee I got a banger for you. Banger for you. You already know, I got a couple housekeeping. First, the book is on the way, May 20th. Remember, you're a genius again. I'm an author, if you don't know. So definitely go check out the book. And for all those interested in purchasing the book, I got a special discount for you just because you listen to the podcast. And you can find out about that at gregehill.com/podcast book. Another shameless plug. November 11th through 13th, we will be having the first Minority Trailblazers Summit. You heard it here first. Bringing some of the most talented people that we have on the show in one area, in one room, and teaching principle by principle steps, having Q&As, breakouts, fun and creative stuff. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going down in Durham, North Carolina. I haven't released any details to the public yet, but I guarantee for all my loyal podcast listeners, you will get an amazing discount. And for more information, the people that want to know exactly when it comes out, the details, location, the price, and get on it, please email me at greg@gregehill.com. We're going the old school way. Email me so I can put you on the list to be the first people to know about the details when it comes out. This is going to be a transformational event, and I had to plug it. So the Minority Trailblazer Summit is going down November 11th through 13th in Durham, North Carolina. We have some big names in this space. They're going to be teaching everything they know. You get a chance to ask questions. We're going to be doing a lot of great stuff. So if you want more information, reach out to me on social media. Email me at greg@gregehill.com, and let's get you on the list, the early list, because I'm giving steep discounts to those that have been with me from the beginning, all right? Enough of the shameless plugs. Let's get into it. And I just want to say, if you are listening via SoundCloud and you have an iPhone, stop listening via SoundCloud. And go search via iTunes podcast app. It's a purple app. Go to Minority Trailblazer Podcast. Subscribe there. Also, if you're listening via iTunes, please leave a review. All right. And I want to shout out to a couple people that's left some amazing reviews. BJ Patrick. Love it. This podcast sheds a refreshing light on the wonderful orgs and business minorities that are leading in our nation. Love it. I got Coco123123. I think that's Kiera. She says, typically I don't write reviews, but I'm absolutely inspired by this podcast. I can and have listened for hours. Love it. And Global Donica. Season 1 has been so inspirational, and I have made this podcast a part of my business regimen. Please keep up the good work. Your guests are inspiring. Thank y'all. I mean, it means a lot to me. And most importantly, it means a lot to the iTunes ranking. So leave a review if you have not. If you listen on the iPhone, this is more than your first podcast, and you have not left a review, please put some respect on it. Put some respect on this podcast. I know it's overplayed. It's cliche now, but I never used it, so I just wanted to use it. I be having too much fun before my guests get on. I know you're up like, yo, man, get this guy off right now, but I'm living it. I'm living it. And if you're listening via a non-Apple device. We are now on Google Play Music. So podcast, search Minority Trailblazer Podcast. You're listening via SoundCloud. Make sure you follow us. All right, all right, all right. So that's enough of the housekeeping. Let's get into our featured guest. And I'm going to start a little bit differently because I want to do some cold intros because I've been reading intros and I know some of y'all be like, yo, he's reading from a paper. Some intros be a lot more fluid. But this lady, this woman, this entrepreneur right here embodies freaking beast mode creativity and thinking outside the box. Also, she is one of the first people I have on the show that also has a son. Like, she is getting it with a son. And I met her through an event called This Is Her Way, led by the amazing and phenomenal Sherry Williams out in DC. So, side plug, if you in DC and you do not know Sherry Williams, if you're not involved in This Is Her Way, please. It's a great empowerment organization for young women. Old women, I mean, not old, I ain't gonna use old and young, but great women, great resource, and great community. But I met her through that event, and after the event, I just kept seeing her photography online. I kept seeing her in Philadelphia, New York, and Texas, and all across the country. And I'm like, yo, what did she do? Like, I didn't understand. So I did a little research, and I saw that she's been in the game 2 to 3 years and started this great organization called Brown Girls with a Camera that really highlighted the industry, which honestly is primarily done or represented by white males. And she put a face, not her face. She started off with a broad face of every brown girl with a camera, which is very niche down. I saw it all the way, and now she travels across the U.S. No, actually, side note, across the country, across the world, doing workshops on photography, doing workshop teaching other people how to shoot model photography, how to shoot wedding photography, how to shoot clients, like really teaching everybody the process. And what's so ingenious about it, this is how she started and got into the game because she realized that she was a bit of a novice. So what did she do? She said, okay, I'm going to make this umbrella organization and I'm going to reach out to people that are better than me. And I'm just going to put it together and just do pop-up shows. And now it's really morphing into a couple thousand followers later, morphing into a whole industry, a whole organization, a whole groundswell of talented people, women of color with a camera with one purpose, and that is shoot amazing photos, to charge and know their worth when it comes to these meetings with these wedding planners, these event planners, and these people that need headshots. And man, it's so exciting the work that they're doing and the movement that they have created with one idea. And I'm glad to bring in their humble leader. They're a humble leader that has been so ingenious in creating these workshops, these events, these portfolios, these things that bring people together with a purpose, but also leverages people that want to utilize their skill set to make money. Because at the end of the day, if you want to do good, you want to continue to do good, you have to make money when you're business. And I love that she's been able to bring in our females of color. Can't use the female word because I used that female word on my blog a couple times and I got attacked on social media. So are powerful women of color. So I just love the energy she brings, and I can't wait to have her on the show. And matter of fact, she's on the show. She's on the line right now. So without further ado, please, Minority Trailblazer Nation, welcome to the show. This entrepreneur, this full-time hustler, this mother of an amazing son, Ruby Melton, founder of Black Girls with a Camera, to the Minority Trailblazer Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Man, I'm more excited than you, I guarantee that. If you're new to the show, we always start the show off with a quote. And Miss Ruby, take us away. Share with our audience a quote that you live by that gets you going in a story, because I'm all about stories. That brings that quote to life.
Absolutely. So I would say one of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein, and it goes, "The woman who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd. The woman who walks alone is likely to find herself in places no one has ever been."
Okay, so Salma, before you even get to the story, it's crazy that Albert Einstein, if you look online and look at his picture, you don't think he's really that deep. He just look like a scientist, but his quotes, I mean, like, come on, man, did he really say that?
Yes,
Like,
he did.
he looked like he was never around any girls his entire life. And
You
hold up,
know.
and let me stop talking about Albert Einstein like that, like a genius. But give us a story to really bring that quote to life in your journey.
Sure. So, just growing up when I was younger, I never really fit into any particular crowd. I was just kind of cool with everyone. So, I played volleyball and basketball and track when I was younger in high school. So I was cool with the athletes. And so, I was cool with the smart people because I had AP and high, and honor roll classes. And so just growing up, I just realized that really to get where I'm going, I can't really follow the crowd because they're not heading in the direction where I want to go. And so when I came across this quote a few years ago, it just really hit home for me because that's kind of how I've been leading my life in my late 20s, is kind of following my own path to where, I am currently today.
Learn from season one. I usually ask people, "Oh, dig deeper, dig deeper." I was like, "Yo, this whole podcast, we got a chance to really bring and unpackage that story." So we just gonna go right into, because our show is made up of three areas. First, we talk about the personal background, the who you are story of herself and the company, whoever the guest represents. And then the second part, we talk about the present day. What does it look like in your business? How do you get your customers? What do you really do? And the third part, which I think is one of the most critical parts, is the future realm. We talk about the future of the person, the guest, as well as their company. So let's go back to the first round. Please, please, please explain, before we get to talk about the amazing movement of Brown Girl with the Camera, share with our audience who you are, your story. I mean, a little bit personal details about you and your background.
Sure. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an 85 baby. Hey.
Own it.
Own it. I do. And my parents actually moved us from the city to Maryland when I was about 7 years old. My dad really wanted us to get out of the city to get us into a more rural lifestyle where there's space and opportunity. So I actually grew up in Maryland in an area called Waldorf, and elementary school, middle school, high school, and until I went off to college at Delaware State University, where I had a partial scholarship for volleyball. So really, Delaware State University was my first introduction to HBCU. Really, before I got offered the scholarship, I didn't really know a whole lot about HBCUs. I grew up, in a mostly Caucasian area, shall I say. There were probably about two black families in the neighborhood.
What did your parents do?
My dad actually was a retired engineer who worked at Con Edison in Manhattan, and my mom worked for the State Department of Maryland. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I have four siblings or three siblings. I have an older brother who's since passed away, an older sister, and a younger sister. And so after I went to Delaware State, this was like my first introduction to HBCU life, where I was able to learn about sororities. This is my first time now. I'm learning about sororities and frats, and I'm kind of getting into the culture of Black people. So it was a little bit of a shock, but I was able to kind of find my way, and kind of figure out who I was as a Black woman. So I got to give big ups to Delaware State, my alma mater, for that introduction. And upon graduating from Delaware State, I actually moved to, I took a job at a marketing firm in Virginia. And a few months after I took that job, the manager wanted to open up an office in Chicago. And so I was like, I have no children. It's just me. Let's do this. So I moved to Chicago, having never been there. And I just had a ball. I love Chicago. It's a beautiful city. Luckily, I was there from like April into September. So I missed all the cold weather.
You
I
missed
missed
the
all
winter?
the snow. I did. I really did. Luckily. So I love Chicago. I was there for a short amount of time. And then I came back to Maryland to kind of figure myself out. And then about a year back home, I landed a job as a contractor working for the federal government at the National Institute of Health. And so I had been there for about 5 years until they laid me off in December of 2014. Yes.
Gotcha. So, not to jump right into the story, I guess Yeah, actually, when they laid you off, what happened next?
Sure. So when they laid me off, I actually had been dibbling and dabbling in photography for about a year and a half, just doing things for friends and family, just really trying to figure out how I was going to get my start. And so when they laid me off, I was like, I was actually in South Africa volunteering, teaching surfing. So I got this
Hold up.
email.
Okay, I got. I'm just writing down my question so I can get. So let you finish the story.
Yeah, so I got this email 4 days into my trip in Cape Town, and it was like, your last day is December 26th, which was the day after Christmas. And I was like, what? Are you serious right now? Am I really getting a letter notifying that I'll be out of work in 2 weeks? It was really crazy. And I thought it was just really whack at the same time. But as I finished out that trip, I was just kind of meditating, and God was like, this is your opportunity to do all the things that you wanted to do with photography. And at that point, Brown Girl with the Camera was maybe about 5 months old. So when I got back, I finished out the rest of my days, and beginning of January, I was a full-on entrepreneur.
So before we even get into the brown girl with the camera story, I wanted to circle back and ask you 2 to 3 questions. The first question is, because I've had people on the show that have that narrative, but I never pressed into it and asked. But can you share a little bit about your experience being a minority coming to an HBCU? But you're really not. I mean, not to say you weren't really a minority, but you really were like you weren't grew up in the like struggle or seeing. I mean, of course, struggle financially, because I know everybody has struggles. I always try to tell people that, like, just because you might not struggle financially or whatever doesn't mean you don't have things going on. But you might not have the typical urban environment coming in. So what was that experience like, and what did you learn from being around peers that were like you but were a little different?
It really helped me to dig more into my culture, the music, So, Delaware State is kind of in between Philly and Baltimore, and of course, New York. So I was getting to know like the Philly crew and how they dressed, and I was getting to know, Baltimore and Baltimore music, and just that whole vibe. So it really broadened my mind of, just the different backgrounds and how, we were all in the same place for education and higher learning. So it really gave me an insight into, other classmates that look like me, but that come from a totally different background, but we were still able to relate one way or another.
And then question: why were you surfing? Like, what you okay? It was like, okay, I was over in this another country and I was teaching a surfing class. Like you said, okay, you played volleyball, and now you went to Chicago, did a marketing, you got a little experience there. You're working for the government, and then when you got fired, you were in another country teaching surfing. So where did this whole surfing come through, and what were you doing there? Like, how did that? Well, explain that process.
Absolutely. So I always tell people that my love for photography first came from traveling. So before there was photography, there was traveling. I was this wanderlust soul, just wanting to like make my way around the world. And so a way for me to do that and to not do it solo, so to speak, was to volunteer. So my first volunteer stint actually came in, I think, 2013 of April. I went to Costa Rica and I taught English for 2 weeks at an orphanage. My opportunity to not just travel, but to give back at the same time. And I knew that once I got to this new place, I wouldn't be alone because there would be other, travelers who were there with the same purpose that I was. And so I found this awesome organization online. It's called Volunteer Headquarters. They have different opportunities in different countries around the world, and they're continuously opening up different opportunities in other countries. And I read the reviews and I was like, I'm gonna give it a stab. I'm gonna go with it. It was very reasonable because at that time, a lot of volunteer organizations, they're expensive. If you wanted to go to, I don't know, Kenya or Tanzania, they're charging like $5,000, $6,000. This was super just reasonable. I could afford it. So I applied, they accepted it, and I was on my way to Costa Rica to teach English for 2 weeks. And so once that happened, I'm looking at other places I can go to. I'm like, well, where can I go next? Because this is amazing. Now, funny enough, about 3 months after that trip, I actually found out that I was pregnant. So that kind of really, not threw a wrench in anything, but it definitely came as a surprise. And so I had to like scale back my travels considerably, so I could give birth and raise my child.
Yeah, you scale back so I can give birth and raise a Side note, you didn't even mention. I said where you are, and who are you, and where you from. I ain't hear
Right?
no. You just left my your child all out the picture. I hope when she grow up one day and listen to this podcast, she look at you sideways.
Oh no, it was all love, all love. But he definitely came into the picture, I think, at the best time.
Uh huh.
I was like, this is going to happen. It's going to happen now. And so he's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh
But I actually got another opportunity to travel and at this time mix in photography when the founder of Girls Going Global, Marti Sutton,
man.
reached out to me. And
Before you even get there, Girls Going Global? Give us a little bit of context for our audience that may be unfamiliar with it.
absolutely. So, Girls Going Global is an amazing nonprofit that allows teen girls, I think between the ages of 13 and 17, the opportunity to take their first trip abroad. And so the
Wow.
trip usually lasts about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, on these different trips, they do different cultural things like they're cooking the authentic food of that country, they're doing some adventure things, as well as giving back. So when I went, we stayed in this awesome location in Costa Rica, and there were about 13 or 14 girls, and then as well as chaperones to accompany them. So we did awesome things like cook authentic Spanish food.
Mm-hmm.
We did horseback riding to a waterfall. And on top of that, we also took surfing lessons. And I think those surfing lessons is what sparked my interest to teach surfing in South Africa.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So take us to. So how long did you teach surfing in South Africa?
So it was about a total of 12 days that I was in Cape Town. I also had a short stint to Johannesburg, where Brown Girl with a Camera actually hosted its first international meetup.
Can't wait to start getting into that because I'm looking at this your travel side note to jump ahead, but I'm looking at your meetups and these exhibitions, and they are literally worldwide. This is not like okay, we're going to be in Largo, Maryland. We're going to be in
What you know about Largo?
yeah, nah. No offense. I'm just saying you from DC, so it's not like you
Yeah.
have 3 or 4 different places in your city and calling that like a world, like a countrywide tour. Because I
Yes.
know that people can be really loose with their verbiage when they have new businesses, but that's
Mhm.
crazy. But let's get back to it. So you're doing that. You get this, and you're like, wow, okay, I need to go into overdrive. So now, if you could explain to our audience in depth the origin, not even the origin, but what is Brown Girl with a Camera?
Absolutely. So Brown Girl with the Camera is an organization that represents the underrepresented photographers within the mainstream photography industry. So we are a group of diverse women who are innovative, we're game changers, and we're doing the damn thing. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, we showcase what photography looks like when there are no limitations to who is behind the lens.
Okay, so bring it to life, bring it to life. So when you say that last sentence, because it sounded very powerful, when some like explain that, can you say the last sentence again and really share with our audience what that means to you?
Absolutely. So we showcase what photography looks like when there are no limitations to who is behind the lens. So, it's no secret that the photography industry is dominated by the white male.
Mm-hmm.
If not the white male, then his counterpart, the white female. And then after that would probably come, all the other ethnicities, black men, and then black women kind of fall somewhere at the bottom. No one really knows that we're out here and we're doing amazing things with our cameras. And so Brown with a Camera encompasses all of that, and it gives us a voice and a platform to share our work, to come together, to unite, and just to be badass.
Mm. Point blank simple. I mean point blank period, man. That's
Mhm.
that's freaking powerful. So when you first started off, because I know you have your own photography business on the side, not on the side, but you have your own jointly, Ruby Ella Photography. So
Yeah.
when you first launched Brown Girl with the Camera, did you already have that, or did you start with Brown Girl with the Camera first?
I actually had Ruby Ella Photography for about a year before I launched Brown Girl with the Camera, only because I just didn't see the opportunities for myself. I didn't really know any of the Broncos with the camera until I launched Bronco with the camera on Instagram. So that opened up a whole new world for me, that I saw women that looked like me who were as passionate about the art of photography as I was and who wanted to continue to evolve and to get better.
Because I think that is one of the most pivotal things that I think is different from you, from a lot of other photographers, as well as from a lot of entrepreneurs. Because that's very interesting that early in the game, when you first started, you had the foresight to say, "Let me go ahead and create a community of people like me while I'm starting." Like that's really genius, because that is the way, like you said, that you can figure out who else is in the lane. Because when you make something just about you,
Hmm.
then of course, I mean, you'll have some success. But when it's just about you, only so many people can be involved and really be invested in it. But when you have something that showcases everybody else, it then takes on a whole life, and then while that raises, it also helps you. So, please speak on that. Was that strategical, or you just said, "Man, honestly, I'm in this space alone. I'm trying to learn my wits." And what gave you the foresight to not only do it, and how has it? And I know I don't want to jump too far ahead,
Hmm.
but I guess when it first started, how did you go about connecting with other like-minded individuals?
Absolutely. So basically, I'm a huge Instagram person.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of photographers are because it's very visual and you can share your work in a second and people will see it wherever they are. And so when I returned from Costa Rica with Girls Going Global, I had all of these amazing images. And I was tagging and using certain hashtags to get them featured, so to speak. So Travel Noir had reposted one of my images, and then it kind of like took like this storm where a lot of other Instagram accounts that were geared towards Black travelers started to repost my images, and I was like, this is awesome, but I don't really see something where it's just for women of color photographers to share their work, and
Mm-hmm.
not just travel, but street photography, but weddings and portraits, and still photography and all these other different genres. And so that's where I really felt compelled to create just a hub where it's just for us. And so when I first started it, I really reached out to the community and my circle and was like, hey, tag another brown girl with a camera or a woman of color photographer. We want to feature their work. And
Mm-hmm.
it really grew from a grassroots operation. You know, More people were tagging other Broncos with the camera, and out of nowhere, there's people from everywhere. I'm like, who are all these Broncos with the camera? I only knew myself.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely been a grassroots and a very authentic growth over these last almost 2 years.
Got you. So I want to ask another question. Okay, when you for okay, you just December 26th, your job tells you that you're no longer employed, and this is after you had your son, correct?
Yes.
So tell me kind of what was your first things that you did after you received that news, and then also, and you might be able to share, and also with that being said, once you have that, you realize, wow, I got to take this to the next level. How did you start getting clients and start getting revenue in the door? Because I know a lot of people listening,
Hmm.
they might have just been laid off, or they just started their business, and now something in life came up, and they have to get clients. Like, it's not a fun no more. It's what went to a hobby, now it's something that they survive on. So talk to us about that transition, because that is definitely pivotal for anybody out there that's trying to start a side hustle, entrepreneur, or whatever. Or if they just got laid off, they're in between jobs and they need to create some revenue with the talent they already have.
Absolutely. So, I gotta admit, when I was first laid off, I did receive unemployment
Mm-hmm.
because bills do have to get
Oh
paid.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that really helped to kind of keep things going
Mm-hmm.
while I was able to try to make connections and reach out to those, who may have been getting engaged or married or who, may have needed maternity images. And oftentimes I would do it at a pretty low cost because I was building my portfolio. And I didn't have the opportunities. I didn't know models. I didn't really know any makeup artists,
Mm-hmm.
nor anybody else who could kind of help me build the portfolio. So I really leaned on my friends and my family. And through that, I started to get referrals. I think also being consistent and putting out your work continues to let people know that you're consistent and that you're passionate and you mean what it is that you're trying to do. So consistency and definitely leaning on my community. I think that coupled with the fact that I had created this organization for women of color photographers definitely really helped as well in bringing a little bit of notoriety and kind of shine my way so that I could continue to get more opportunities.
Gotcha. So the three things I took out of that was one, it happened organically from referrals. It wasn't
Absolutely.
you utilize okay, who's in your space that may need this service.
Hmm.
Didn't do it for free, but you didn't hit people over the head. And okay, so boom, you got that. They were referral based. But the second and biggest thing is, even before you even started that, you had already been adding value to the community well before you even started down that journey. Correct?
Yes.
Correct. And then I guess the third and the biggest thing that I got out of it is just the consistency and just showing people kind of what you do. So when you speak of consistency from your perspective, from your narrative, what does that look like for other entrepreneurs out there that are okay? Say if I'm just starting my business. I'm looking for clients right now, and I don't have. And people are not responding to my emails, or people are being receptive to what I'm trying to give them, and I'm having it at a price. Like, what would you tell those people?
Absolutely. I would tell them that if the opportunities weren't coming their way, then they need to go out and create those opportunities. So, for instance, I would grab some of my girlfriends. I'm like, hey, listen, put your best outfit on, get your hair done, do your makeup, and let's go out to this field and let's do this shoot. And so, from those opportunities, I was able to gradually add images to my portfolio that I wanted to shoot, moving forward. Um, and just posting those and letting people see my art and letting people see where I started from to where I am now and showing them that progress. I think really kind of won people over as well. I think it's important to kind of show your journey along the way. So, you'll gain followers and fans, and people are inspired from people that kind of start from nothing and build their way up. So definitely, if the opportunities aren't there, then you got to go out and find them or you got to create them yourself.
Amen. And I think two things I got out of that. The first thing is, just you put stuff out, even if I mean, and it might be the best you can do, but honestly, it might not be the best to
Hmm.
show your growth because I ain't gonna lie, everybody that I look up to in the speaking realm and the personal development realm, the first thing I do is go to their YouTube channel and look at the first videos so I can see okay because that helps me, it gives me confidence. So I'm like, yo,
Hmm.
when they first started, I was just like that, I was even better. Or I'm like, but then also I look where they are now, and it
Hmm.
gives me a deeper level of admiration because it's like, wow, first of all, it's a huge body of work. This is years and years and years and years and years of content.
Hmm.
But it lets you know, it gives you the blueprint, and I think that's definitely pivotal. And the second thing I want to talk about, and if you're listening to this show, I need you to listen in right here, is the myth of no opportunities. And
Oh,
I feel like there's a
amen.
poison in society of, oh, there's no opportunities out there in the workforce, so they're waiting for presidents to get in. They're waiting for presidents of the United States to improve the economy for them. like they waiting, like Obama came in the office and
Right.
it hasn't changed, or I'm a speaker and I got no opportunities, I'm a photographer, nobody want to see it, whatever. But you hit on it. You just said create your opportunities, create them. If you're
Appreciate it.
like, there's just it's for people with talent, for people that are out, not even with talent, for people that's out there just thinking, even looking online, you'll see how people manifest and create stuff. I think you really hit it on the head and you put it to a point. And can you share another time, because I'm glad you shared your example of, okay, just get some friends, another time where you in your business initially there was a roadblock in how you creatively created an opportunity.
Sure. So I guess I would say another way that I was able to gain more clients was to work under other photographers.
Ooh, okay, break it down.
Absolutely. So I would say last year I worked with three male photographers, or I would say three brown guys with the camera, who were doing events and weddings and studio work. And I got the opportunity to shadow them. not only did it allow me to practice and show my best work, but it also allowed me to gain a better understanding of how to get to where I wanted to be. By following their blueprint and really being a student, I was able to kind of grasp, the concept. Okay, well, if I want to shoot portraits and weddings, this is kind of how I have to do it, or this is the best way to go about doing A, B, and C. So really, finding a mentor or someone that you can work under um, will really kind of, I guess, tear down those roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And just being in the atmosphere with other creatives. I don't know about you, but when I'm around other creatives, I become even more creative and even more excited to push forward.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And when you said that example, I just thought about, like, say you're in DC, right? You're in traffic, and you look on the other side in the Hove lane, and you see Cassie just going by there. You're like, bruh, I'm stuck in this traffic. I can't move, and the
Hmm.
Hove lane people are just speeding by. I'm like, where? I just need two more invisible people in this car so I can get that lane. But instead of just waiting in traffic, waiting in line, you jump into somebody else that already had momentum. They're already going. Just be a passenger. Be a
Yes.
passenger
Hmm.
until you get to your destination, and then you can jump out and get into
And you
your
can hop
car.
out.
Yeah, see, ooh, boom. That's I'm gonna use.
Amen.
Yeah. So nah, that's cool. And I definitely, before we go into the present day round, I definitely wanted to ask you. You must be a very, very humble person, and I want you to speak about humility because one, as far as learning, like having the humility to learn on your craft, even when you've already had experience doing it, to learn under others, but also to create a community in what you do when you first started. And the reason why I say that is you might have had photographers, and I don't know how y'all rate who's good or who's bad in photography, but you might have had photographers when you invited into your community were just maybe a lot more, I'm not gonna say better, but more
Advanced.
advanced and more seasoned. So how was it? How did you develop that kind of humility to embrace people in your community that may be way far advanced than you are?
Well, I always kind of have this notion that you can always learn something from someone.
Mm-hmm.
So I can learn something from someone who may not be, where I am, as far as technically,
Mm-hmm.
but they're coming into it with a different mindset and different experiences that can even open my eyes even further.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I realized that Brown Girl with the Camera may have started with me, but it is no by far, it's not by far going to end with me because I'm just one person and it's a community of women. And so when I started, the more I found more Brown Girls with the Camera, the more passionate I was to find more and to connect them because I feel like if I'm a photographer starting out and I feel like there's no one else like me that I can relate to,
Mm-hmm.
and so to be able to connect these brown girls with the camera right in their own city, let alone across the country and in different continents, was really powerful for me. And so that's kind of what drives me is to continue to connect us because I know that I know the feeling of starting out and wanting to do something but then not seeing anyone that looks like you that's excelling at it. You can get a little disheartened and discouraged.
Mm. Amen. So we're gonna transition to the second part of the show, and that's the present day. And honestly, I want to pivot this show a little bit because I think you are, and I might be mistaken, but you are the first person I've had on the Minority Trailblazer podcast that has a child, like that's a parent.
Really?
And yeah, you are really, really. Out of 21 episodes, I believe that you are the first one ever. And
Wow.
I want to ask some questions because we may have those out there that are juggling business, juggling jobs, juggling a lot of priorities and whatnot, and growing and thriving, and they
Hmm.
have children. So definitely, till you take some time and to share about how maybe you have changed as a person, because I know even beforehand when you were dibbling dabbling business, pre-child, I mean after child, and tell me how you prioritize your time and what you do in regards to still being a great mother.
Ooh, this is something that I would say I am still continuously working on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the work-life balance is one that all mamapreneurs struggle with. Because on one end, they have this passion, they have this project or this idea or organization that is also like a baby that they have to nurture and tend to on the daily so that it'll grow into what they want it to be. And then on the other hand, they have a real life human being that needs their attention. They need to be fed, cared for, loved, and paid attention to. So I tend to, slightly struggle with the work life balance, but I will say that I have gotten much better than when I was when my child was first born. So he'll be 3 actually in October, and so I think really it's you have to just be intentional about how you spend your time. I think as an entrepreneur in general, we are very just a little bit selfish with our time because we just know how precious it is. And then when you become a parent, your time is even more precious because now you have someone else depending on you. So I would say really managing your time well. Get off of social media if you don't need to be on social media. Turn off the television. Those moments when you aren't on your computer or answering emails, then put your phone down and spend 120% paying attention to your child. Let them have your undivided attention because there are going to be times when you're going to have to in some ways shut them out so that you can do what you have to do and you have to not feel guilty about it. I know initially on I felt very guilty when I wasn't around him and I was working on my business. I would feel guilty like, well, maybe I should be, doing something with him or giving him more attention. But at the end of the day, you are a parent, but you're also a person and a human being. So I think also with how times are now, where women, we're working full-time jobs, we have a side business, we're taking care of a home and a family and children, it's unheard of. So we're really being stretched as far as we can. So I think really being intentional about your time and how you spend it is very important because, you only get 24 hours in a day. And also, not feeling guilty when it's time to take care of business. You kind of have to shut off that, that mother tendency to worry and just spend that hour, doing what you have to do and getting it done. So those are kind of, be my advice would be to really be intentional about your time and planning out, time with your family and your friends, just like you plan out, meetings and things of that nature.
Along the lines of that note of adjustments, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, what was your biggest struggle, and this could be a life or a business struggle that you have encountered over the in your life? Because I always want to ask our audience, because once we get into kind of the currently kind of what y'all doing now and the spaces that y'all in the future, everybody's going to get this great rosy picture of kind of this journey. And they're like, wow. And we want to have that rosy picture, but we do want to bring some depth and to understand the struggles and so allow people to be very aware of some things, some struggles that they may encounter on this journey as well, and kind of bring it to where they're at. So can you share with us one of your biggest struggles and how you overcame it?
Absolutely. So I would say one of my biggest struggles would be early on was not trusting the process and not going through the struggle. So I wanted I wanted to go from bad to great without going from bad to okay to pretty good to really good to okay, now she's really doing something. I just wanted to skip it all. But really when when you go through the process, you learn a whole lot about yourself as a person. You learn about yourself as a artist and creative and as a business person, and it really humbles you because you're like, wow, I came from this and this is where I am now. And because, I trusted the process and just kept putting in the work, I now can see the results and reap the rewards of what I started 2 years ago.
Can you share with us, I like a story or bring us there to when you tried to skip the levels and how that looked?
Sure. So I would say, let me think of a really, because you're a story man. Let me give you a really, really.
I just want to. How would Future say? He would say, "Dress it up and make it real for me."
Absolutely. Um, so I guess for me, when I was starting my portfolio and, the images looking back aren't so great, but I wanted to be great. And one of the things that I did that really was harmful was compare myself to other photographers who had years in the game.
Hmm.
um, they always say you really shouldn't compare yourself to other people, and you really, really shouldn't. You really have to, compare yourself to who you were yesterday,
Hmm.
and to know that you were better than you were yesterday is really, all the approval that you really, really need. So, in building my portfolio, I wanted to skip that part. I wanted to just jump to the part where I was creating these awesome images. Then I realized that, okay, well, I'm self-taught and I can't teach myself everything. So I'm really going to have to seek out counsel. And through the Brown Girl with the community, I happened upon some other photographers who were teaching workshops and, really were leading the pack in their own right. And so just reaching out to them and signing up for the workshops and honing in on some of my skills, I was able to get to where I, wanted to be, or, closer to where I want to be, just by reaching out and researching and getting information. If I had skipped that process, I definitely would not be where I am today.
Mm. That's major, major key. Do you have any mentors now?
I do actually. She's like a friend, a mentor, and like one of my biggest cheerleaders. Her name is Sherry Williams, and
Hmm.
she is the founder of Her Way, which is an amazing platform for women who are killing it in whatever industry they're in. So she brings them together and she unites them, and she has these awesome events that take place throughout the year, um, to continue to empower the community that she's built.
Yeah, yeah.
About our relationship was is that she's not a photographer.
Uh huh.
So to have someone's um, you know, unbiased advice really helped me and propelled me to move even further. So I
Mm.
think having people in your circle who may not even do what you do, they come with a totally different mindset and a different experience, that can help you in your journey and your path.
How do you receive their feedback though? Because I know I'm a big guy. I don't like I sometimes
Ooh,
I'm a bad about feedback, man. I just go off the hinges, and I've gotten a lot better. But back in the day, I'm like, bro, you don't do what I do. How you gonna tell me that, bro? Like I know the all. Blah, 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 blah. So how do you deal with feedback though? Because what if Sherry say something you don't like, or you like, bro, you
ooh,
what? So how do you
it's
how?
hap- it has happened. I agree with you. I very sensitive initially, where any feedback would cut like a knife, and I would just cut that person off. Like I ain't talking to you for a few days because that hurt. But I think knowing her, it comes from a true place,
Hmm.
and understanding that she really does want to see me do better, and she does really want to see me get to the places that I tell her that I want to get to. And so I've come to trust her advice and her feedback because I know it's coming from a place that is pure and honest. And just all the books that I read where it tells you, you don't want to have friends that just agree with you and that just pat you on the back and say great job. You want to have honest feedback, because that feedback is going to help you get to the next level,
Hmm.
because you got to figure out, okay, yeah, I did right in this, but what didn't I do, right in, and where can I fix it? Because that's only going to improve, where I am and put me where I want to be.
Got you. That's so. So tell us how is Brown Girl with the Camera, specifically that organization, from its inception to now? Because now, and you could speak on it about the workshops, the exhibitions, the plethora of things that y'all do. One, can you share exactly the other things outside of the community, like specifically what that community does and what kind of things you're offering, what you have up next, as well as how did it get to that point? Because I know y'all didn't. I know you didn't just start off. Okay, we start off doing exhibitions, doing workshops, doing all this stuff. So, kind of walk us through that process to where you first started off with the organization and to where y'all are today and what you offer.
Absolutely. So when I first started it, it was really out of just this wanting to have a platform to share women of color photographers' work. It was very innocent. I hadn't thought much further into the future other than just sharing, my fellow photographers' work. And then slowly, by listening to the community and what they wanted, I started to host meetups. Now, in these meetups, the first one was actually in New York, and we did night photography where we took photos of the skyline, and a few people showed up for that. So I was like, wow, these people,
You say a
okay.
few people. How many?
There were three, so
Okay.
it was four of us
So the
altogether.
first, so your first meetup ever, just three,
Yep,
four.
first
Okay.
meetup ever, just three.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, we had a total blast. It was my first time doing night photography, and I learned so much. Um, and so, I was like, well, let's do this again in DC. So what I did was I hosted one in DC. It was actually sunrise over the National Monument, so
Mm-hmm.
over the reflecting pool. Um, and so, basically just trying to adhere to what the community was telling me and creating an opportunity for us all to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, we did a cherry blossom. I'm sorry, before DC, I actually did the meetup in Johannesburg. So when I was out in South Africa in December of 2014, I had, thought, well, maybe I can get together with some photographers out in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, mind you, I'm thinking globally because, I love to travel.
Uh huh.
And I was thinking, well, maybe I can make this work. So I had reached out to a few people through hashtags on Instagram who were
Mm.
located in Johannesburg. And I reached out to them. We exchanged emails. I told them what I was trying to do. They were like, who's this girl from America? But we're going to go with it though. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it was myself, a young man and a young lady who got together, and we did street photography in Johannesburg. It was my
So
first.
when you do these meetups, so okay, say you did a meetup in North Carolina. Okay, if you do here, what is it? What does it look like?
So early on, it was really just doing shots like street photography.
Mm-hmm.
There really like wasn't a huge rhyme or reason, just whatever idea that I thought would work or would be awesome to try, I tried it. So yeah, so Johannesburg we got together and we just took shots of the downtown area that one of the other people that came, we met there and they suggested it.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and I was like, this can really be something. This is kind of cool. So I came back, we did the DC meetup. We did another DC meetup for the cherry blossoms because here in DC, the Cherry Blossom Festival is really huge. And actually, it just passed over Easter. But thousands upon thousands of people from all over really come to the tidal basin, and there are these gorgeous cherry blossoms. So we did that. And then after that meetup, getting feedback from the community, they were like, maybe we should shoot some models. They're like, I would love to build my portfolio. And so I was like, oh, okay. So they were like, let's do models and makeup artists. And so I reached out to a makeup artist that I knew and I put out a modeling call on Instagram and different other social media platforms. And I got some hits. So we had a date picked. We all met up at a location. And that was the very first portfolio building experience.
Mm.
And since then, we've kind of stuck with the portfolio building experience idea. And I had two photographers from the Greenville, South Carolina area to hit me up. And they were like, hey, we saw what you did in DC. Can you bring that here to South Carolina? We would love to host you. I was like, absolutely. So we talked offline, we picked a date, and we did it. I think that second one, people were kind of like, wow. So I started to get inquiries from Texas, from Philly, from Detroit, all over the place. Um,
Wow.
and then we had the same experience in New York 2 weeks after South Carolina. So after that experience, I was like, all right, let me regroup because I have all of these, folks hit me up because they want to be able to have the same opportunity to build their portfolio. So if you remember when I was talking earlier about when I first started, to build my portfolio, I would grab a girlfriend or grab a friend and we go out and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm creating these opportunities for these beginner photographers or just the photographers who want to diversify their portfolio to come into an atmosphere where it's already prepared where the models and the makeup artists and stylists are already on board, and all they have to do is just shoot and do their best work, and they get to network and they get to, grow their network of other creatives right in their own city.
Wow.
From there, I decided to put on a tour. I got this bright idea to hit up 9 cities, including London, in 2016. So currently, at this point, we're kind of halfway through the tour. The first 2 stops were in Dallas and Houston, and that really set the tone. Um, with this tour, we really elevated the experience. We wanted to have more professionalism, have a theme centered around the shoots. We were bringing in professional makeup artists and stylists that were going to add a level of just awesomeness to the experience overall.
Hmm.
And so we did San Francisco and LA after Texas. And so now we're back on the East Coast. We're doing Philly. We're doing 2 in DC because the first one was sold out,
Hmm.
as well as New York, Atlanta, and the last stop is going to be in London at the end of June.
Oh, I get it. 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 Now it's all coming to fruition where you bring in professional makeup and then you get models, and then this is opportunity for either artists that want to brush up on some skills or just shoot some more stuff. They come and they just get live shooting experience, but also get that networking component of working with people just doing what they're doing.
Yes,
Wow, that is, man, my
absolutely.
goodness, that's freaking genius. This is I'm glad I got you on the podcast early because the next couple of years, this is freaking phenomenal. I can't wait to see how this goes internationally, especially from a woman of color that's behind this. So, that's freaking phenomenal. And it's crazy how it's grown. So, can you also speak on the exhibitions piece?
Absolutely. So, um, last year, I actually had a fellow photographer of mine and another brown girl with a camera who invited me out to her exhibition.
Hmm.
Um, it was her along with 3 other photographers who were going to show some of their pieces up in Baltimore at this gallery. And so, I was like, of course I'll come support. So I showed up and I was so taken back and inspired by the whole program that I was like, I can do this. I should do this with Brown Girl with the Camera. Like, I don't see any other exhibitions that's geared towards this, this niche that's geared towards these ladies. So let me do something similar and see how it goes. And so the photographer who I went to support, she helped me to kind of figure out how it would go since she's done a few of them before. And with her expertise and just the passion and drive, I opened it up to the community for to apply. And I was just overwhelmed by all of the applications. They're coming from Atlanta and Detroit and Philly and New York, all of these ladies who want the opportunity to show their work because they're not getting this anywhere else. And so pick the date. Actually, the date kind of coincided with Brown Girl with the Camera's anniversary.
Mm.
So not only were we celebrating women of color photographers and their work, we were also celebrating the movement and it being around for an entire year.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And also, we and also I didn't even talk about it, but you also do workshops as well, and that is pivotal because that's showcasing the blueprint. I'm looking at now event photography workbook, and it's showing a blueprint on how photographers can infiltrate these different other mediums because as a photographer because and we don't have all show to talk about it, but there's different, okay, there's corporate events, there's maternity, there's all these other sections, and you're
Mhm.
actually in this, so in these workshops you show photographers the whole blueprint.
Absolutely. So I actually not only do I do portrait photography and things like that, but I also do event photography. And so so Her Way and Brown Girl with the Camera partnered last October, and we hosted a live event photography workshop that coincided with the Her Way workout fitness day. So Her Way had several like a yoga instructor came through, a soka instructor came through, and I brought on for photographers to capture it all.
Mm-hmm.
So as that is happening simultaneously, I'm instructing these ladies on how to improve their event photography skills, like right there as it's happening, like
Mm.
right hands-on experience. So if they have a question, I'll come right over and whatever it is, I can help them and walk them through it. And to accompany that, I created a workbook, something that they can kind of dig into after the experience was over and, kind of gain more knowledge that way. Because when I started out doing event photography, there were a lot of, failures. I would, I wouldn't quite get the right shot sometimes, or, I didn't understand how to approach the event because there's so many aspects to covering events because there's so many different kind of events. So I thought that it would be best if I threw all of my knowledge that I knew of event photography into this book that will accompany these ladies so that they can use it moving forward to continue to improve on their event photography techniques and skills.
Oh man, that's phenomenal, man. And I hope people that are listening are not just getting lost in the photography jargon, because the stuff that you're spewing as far as business principles and adding on products and providing services of value, letting your community dictate what programs you're offering. It's timeless. Like, I mean, I'm getting ideas off of this, and I thought I was all ideaed out. And I mean, like, it's freaking crazy. So I pray that people are really taking it in, and we're gonna get to your website and everything else at the end. But man, if y'all, she's the blueprint to a lot of things outside of photography, as far as community building, as far as adding on through time, different price points, different packages and offerings that people actually want. So I please pray that y'all are taking in all this, because this is oh man, this is amazing. This is amazing. So I want to transition to our last round, and
Hmm.
which is the future. And what's next for Black Girls with a Camera in 2016 and beyond?
Oof, absolutely. So we're actually hosting our second exhibition coming this August,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be right here in DC. And so, what I would love to do is I would love to take that exhibition on the road. So I would like to go to different cities, just like how I'm doing with the portfolio building experiences and offering an opportunity for the ladies in the community to show their work. So I would love to hit up Detroit. I would love to hit up Miami during what is it, Art Basel or Art Basel.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to, go hit up Texas again and to give, those an opportunity to showcase their work. So that's definitely one thing that I would definitely want to implement. I also want to open up the workshops to other seasoned photographers in the community. So giving them an opportunity to teach what they know to the community. And we would be the hub, because we are a hub of Brown Goes with the Camera. They would just have to figure out what it is that what they're teaching. So if they're teaching about weddings, they would come up with their own workbook. And, I would open it up to the community to whoever wanted to learn from that photographer. So kind of something of like a school or university or some kind of academy, where have you, where we open it up to seasoned photographers who want to share their knowledge with those who, want to build upon their skills and to learn.
Man, this is and I'm appalled because I'm from Durham, North Carolina, and you ain't even said come to Durham, North Carolina. I don't see no NC dates. I don't see even Charlotte. I am appalled. We have photographers out here too.
You absolutely right. And so that's definitely a place. I've actually gotten quite a few inquiries. So North Carolina will definitely be on the list next year for the tour,
Yeah, and I
for sure.
definitely I can definitely pull some strings, and I got some venues in line that can be a dope spot. So
Yes.
let me know when we were trying to make that happen. I could definitely put some fillers out there, because I know we have a community that definitely will be welcome to your service, and definitely after this podcast, hopefully people can reach out, and we can get some more inquiries on those services, because I definitely think that's needed outside of that. So. Oh
Absolutely.
man, and oh, definitely in my conference. I'll let you. I could talk to that after the call, as far as something I put together at the end of November that
For
I
sure.
definitely want to get that on. So, what's next? What's the ultimate vision for Black Girls with the Camp beyond 2016? If you just said, like, if you were to look back at this company in 40 years, what, like at the end, you see 40 years of progress or whatnot. What does it look like?
Ooh,
I,
wow.
I know that's hard, but just say, just your wildest imagination, because that's a hard question.
Yeah,
Because things change so rapidly, but
they
it just
do.
just cause.
Absolutely. So I see Brown Girl with the Camera being the hub for women of color photographers. Now, I'm not just talking Black women, I'm talking Hispanic women. I'm talking, women that come from, other diversities, Native American women, South American, Caribbean, Asian. Um, it being that hub and number one resource that's going to offer opportunities to empower them on their journey, to connect them with other photographers, and to create this sense of unity. So, I definitely see some kind of, I have this idea for a YouTube series. So, you know how they have the YouTube series, or not YouTube, but the show, it's actually on Bravo, where these designers,
Hmm.
they, I think it's but basically, it's a show about designers, and each week one gets kicked off until at the end there's this one designer. I actually have that concept for photography, where start out with 12 photographers, and each week there's a different kind of project where they have to either work alone or work in groups, and then it's voted on by the judges, and at the end of the show there's one photographer standing, and then they'll win you know um some kind of money prizes and some kind of huge award. So just being able to like put us more on mainstream, to get more women of color in the mainstream, and working with big brands, I think would be awesome, definitely.
Oh man, that's fantastic, and I just can't wait to see it come to fruition. So, last question in this round is: when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
Absolutely. I would love to be remembered as a woman, as a Black woman who was an advocate for women of color photographers everywhere, who, through her passion and drive, knocked down walls and boundaries and created a platform and a place where our voices can be heard, where our work can be seen, and we can be acknowledged in the way that we should.
That's the end of that. Let's transition to our last round, the most exciting round, which is the culture change round, which is a series of 5 rapid questions, and I require a rapid answer. You ready?
Yes, let's do it.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Just start.
What is one of your personal habits that you can attribute to your success?
I don't know if it's a habit, but it's something that I definitely do, is not taking no for an answer.
How do you do that?
Being relentless in my pursuit.
What is your favorite book and why?
My favorite book would have to be War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Oh man, that is a phenomenal book. It's on my recommended readings list.
Isn't
Like,
it?
yeah, man, that man, Stephen
Oof,
Pressfield, that book.
that
I,
book changes lives.
Matter of fact, I need to, now that I'm mature, I need to buy like 10 of those copies and just give it to all my creative friends that just think
You know?
they can just show up. Like,
Gifted.
I can just show up and write when I want to write. Like, shut up, bro. No, you need to write every day, dude.
Every day.
I need to
Every
sing when I
day.
want to sing. Shut up,
You
man.
want to do it is when you got to do it the most.
Yeah, like what? And then they want to draw from skills they don't have when it's time to shine because they didn't just do it every day, even if it's bad. But that book is phenomenal. I'm glad that you brought that up. Please,
Yes.
oh man, I could talk for days. We can do a podcast about that book. What
And you know
inspires
what? Sure, for real.
what inspires you the most and keeps you motivated?
Um, I would say my son, wanting to be an example, wanting to show him what he could obtain in life if he just didn't give up. Also, paying down my student loans. And that's real talk.
No, that's real. That's real. That's. I'm just trying to be that guy. One clean swipe. I'm just trying to.
You know?
A couple speaking engagement. I'm like 4 speaking engagements, some big boy jumps. In the next year or so, and just go ahead and knock that out because it pisses me off. But that's a podcast in itself as well.
Yes.
If you were the president of the United States, what's the first thing you would do?
I would cut everybody's student loans in half.
Oh man, so you gonna
In
stay
half.
on the new normal? I love it.
Yes, I
Why
am.
not? Why not
I
all the
got
way
to.
though?
Well, because you got to have some skin in the game.
Oh, I love it. That's
You got to have
real.
some skin in the game. I mean, you did take out the loans, so you got to pay something back, even though the interest rates are ridiculous. That shouldn't really be your fault. So
Mm.
half, we'll do half.
Amen. 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 And the last question. This is outside the culture change round. Matter of fact, great culture change round. This is one of the most pivotal questions of the whole show, which is the reason why I do this show. I mean, of course, I get to interview some of the world's leading change agents of color, but also to put some depth to the faces that are leaders in their own movement and talk about real stuff. And if you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
I would have to change the crab in a barrel mindset. The fact that we all can't share in the piece of the pie. The fact that we all can't win when we all can win because there's enough to go around. So just that scarcity mindset and if I help this person get to where they have to be or even support them, then I'm not gonna get what I need. When in fact it's gonna be tenfold. So just that scarcity mindset and I can't help my brother and sister out to get to where they need to be because for some reason it's gonna keep me down.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that. So, before we wrap it up, where can we find all the information about you, Brown Girl with the camera, and everything that you're doing?
Absolutely. So first place you can go is to the website, which is www.bgwac, which stands for Brown Girl with a Camera.com. We're also on Instagram by the same name. We're on Twitter at the underscore BGWAC. We also have a Facebook page, Brown Girl with a Camera. And you can find me personally at rubyella.com and on Instagram at rubyella photo. Ruby Ella Photo.
Okay, so audience, definitely check those out. And at the end, I'll chop it up. We'll do some pre-roll and put those in the middle of the episode so they know where to go. But thank you so much for your time. I know time is of the essence with the family, with the full-time job, running this empire right now. So I appreciate for you giving me over an hour of your time. Like, I really do.
I'm really grateful to be on your podcast. I love what you're doing and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Amen. Minority Trailblazing Nation, thank you for tuning in and listening to another hour-long production. I know you're like, boy, the boys be talking. But it's all amazing content, information. Ruby and her Brown Girls with the Camera movement, they are next in line. I cannot wait. I'm glad to get on the episode early, and I'm glad that she's been joining us in this fascinating movement. So, for Minority Trailblazing Nation, I need y'all to do one thing. Before I even get to that, I definitely need y'all to rate the podcast if you're listening via iTunes. And if you're listening via SoundCloud or any other device, make sure you follow it and share it with a friend. If you're interested in learning more about my book, Remember You're a Genius. Again, one man's journeys from hero to humblest to humble. Humble to homeless to humble. Golly, it's the end of the episode, so I'm gonna leave that out there. I ain't gonna edit it. You can find a discounted version at gregehill.com/podcast book. All right. So, like we always do it, I need y'all to do